Good afternoon. So our lesson this evening and for tomorrow will be on solving problems by finding equivalent ratios. We have already started this. We did a couple of problems on Tuesday morning in class. You do need your piece of paper and a pencil. You do have to do examples throughout the video, as well as complete a couple of problems to turn in tomorrow. Remember, this is a video. You can stop it, rewind it, fast forward it whenever you need to. So grab your materials and let's get started. I can statements. I can use type diagrams to solve problems when given a ratio between two quantities and a change to those quantities that change the ratio. I can understand the relationship between ratios and fractions. I can describe the fractions a over b associated with the ratio a colon b as the value of the ratio a to b. And I can understand that when given a ratio a colon b, different ratios can be formed from the numbers a and b. For example, b colon a colon parentheses a plus b, and b colon parentheses a plus b are associated with the same ratio relationship. Look at example 1. Sammy and David were selling water bottles to raise money for new football uniforms. Sammy sold 5 water bottles for every 3 water bottles David sold. Together they sold 160 water bottles. How many did each boy sell? Pause video and try on your own. Alright, so now let's look at our solution. If I'm looking at and I see that I can actually set me up a ratio with the information being given in my problem. I see that I can set up by doing a ratio of Sammy to David. Well, Sammy sold 5 bottles and David sold 3 water bottles. So there's my first ratio, 5 to 3. I can also represent that in a type diagram, 5 to 3. Now, if they sold altogether 160 water bottles, that means that I'm going to have to look at both boys to see individual pieces. So I would take and see how many pieces I have representing for both boys, because it's an all together what they sold. So I'm looking at, I have 8 pieces, so I would take the number they sold altogether, 160, and I'm going to divide it by 8 pieces, because that's how many pieces of tape I have. This will get me down to individual boxes, individual pieces of tape, how much they represent. So 8 into 16 goes 2 times. 2 times 8 gives me 16. I subtract, and I bring down. So 8 into 0 goes 0 times. 8 times 0 is 0. And I'm finished. So each individual piece of tape represents 20. They are worth 20. So that gives me each individual piece. So now I'm able to actually look and separate of how many actually Sammy sold and how many David sold. So look at Sammy's. I'm going to look at my 5 pieces of tape for Sammy, and I see that he sold 100 water bottles. And then I look at David's, and I see he sold, with 3 pieces of tape, he sold 60 water bottles. So I have Sammy sold 100 and David sold 60. Example 2. The ratio of the number of people who own a smartphone to the number of people who own a flip phone is 4 to 3. If 500 more people own a smartphone than a flip phone, how many people own each type of phone? Pause video and try on your own. So looking at example 2, it gives me a ratio of smartphones to flip phones of 4 to 3. I'm going to start by representing it with a type diagram. I see that each piece is equal, because in our type diagram we're doing ratios, each piece is equal amounts. I can look at that for the first 3, I came out equal. So this 1 piece extra on my smartphone actually represents how much more or how many more people own the smartphone. And it tells me up here that 500 more people own a smartphone. So that's what this one extra equals. It represents 500. Well, if this one piece equals 500, that actually means that all of my pieces equal 500 because they are equal amounts. So each piece of my tape is 500. So then I'm able to look and find out how many for each one. So looking at how many for each one. Looking for each one, I see that my smartphones for 4 actually represents, there was 2,000 people that own a smartphone to 1,500 people that own a flip phone. Have ready to turn in at the beginning of class Thursday, October 22nd. Number 1, Miss Johnson and Miss Sipple were folding report cards sent home to parents. The ratio of the number of report cards Miss Johnson folded to the number of report cards Miss Sipple folded is 2 to 3. At the end of the day, Miss Johnson and Miss Sipple folded a total of 300 report cards. How many did each person fold? And number 2, at a country concert, the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls is 2 to 7. If there are 250 more girls than boys, how many boys are at the concert? And let's go ahead and fix this because it should be 250. So there we have our number actually fixing our problem. So work these two and have ready to turn in tomorrow morning when you come to class. Example 3. Shelley compares the number of oak trees to the number of maple trees as part of a study about our hardwood trees in a woodlot. She counted 9 maple trees to every 5 oak trees. Later in the year, there was a bug problem and many trees died. New trees were planted to make sure they were the same number of trees as before the bug problem. The new ratio of the number of maple trees to the number of oak trees is 3 to 11. After planting new trees, there were 132 oak trees. How many more maple trees were in the woodlot before the bug problem than after the bug problem? Explain. Pause video and try on your own. So let's look at the solution. Let's work this one out. It says after planting new trees, there were 132 oak trees. How many more maple trees were in the woodlot before the bug problem than after the bug problem? Well, we know that after the bug problem, we have a number for how many oak trees. So let's use that ratio to set up to solve our problem of after the bug problem. So after the new ratio of the number of maple trees and the number of oak trees is 3 to 11. So you can see I've actually set up a tape diagram to represent 3 to 11. My 3 is actually representing my maple trees, to where my 11 is representing my oak trees. Well, in my problem, it tells me that after the bug problem, there was 132 oak trees. And all I'm going to do is I want to get down to how much each piece of my tape actually represents. Each section of it, how much does it represent? So I can actually take 132 and I can divide it by my 11, which is my number for my oak trees. So I take 11 and 13, goes one time. 1 times 11 is 11. I subtract. I bring down my 2. 11 and 22 goes 2 times. 2 times 11 is 22. So I'm finished. So it actually... Alright, let's try this one more time. I've actually did my 132 already divided by my 11 to get that each piece represents 12. Each piece of my tape. I do apologize for. Alright, so each piece actually represents 12. So now if I want to know how many more maple trees were in the woodlot before the bug problem than after the bug problem, I'm going to look at that after the bug problem. We had a total of 36 maple trees. Sorry, my bad. Because each piece represented 12. So 3 times 12, it does give us 36. That is after the bug problem. So if I'm looking at before the bug problem, we had that they were 9 maple trees to every 5. So then I would take 9 times 12 to get 108. So I look at how many more maple trees were in the woodlot before the bug problem than after the bug problem. I would say I had 108 before, 36 after. Let's say how many more. I would actually just find the difference. So I'm going to take and subtract 36 from 108. I can't take 3 from 0, so I have to borrow. 10 minus 3 gives me 7. So there was 72 more maple trees in the woodlot before the bug problem than after. Sorry for so much confusion. Have ready to turn in at the beginning of class tomorrow. The school band is comprised of middle school students and high school students, but it always has the same maximum capacity. Last year, the ratio of the number of middle school students to the number of high school students was 1 to 8. However, this year, the ratio of the number of middle school students to the number of high school students changed to 2 to 7. If there are 18 middle school students in a band this year, how many fewer high school students are in the band this year compared to last year? Explain. Then, to sum up our lesson, when solving problems in which a ratio between two quantities changes, it is helpful to draw a before tape diagram and an after tape diagram. I will see you all tomorrow.